everyone, it's Ellen Allen from Ellen Allen Voice Studio, where we do confident, awesome singing. Today I want to talk a little bit about establishing a good practice routine as the school year is starting. This is a busy time of year as we all get back to various routines and activities, and it's easy to get carried away or overwhelmed by things. So over the years, I've found, both for myself and my students, that it's important to establish a practice routine right when the school year starts, even if it seems like other things might be a bigger priority. Because if you ignore your practice routine and say that you'll fit it in later, before you know it, your fall routine has crystallized and it seems like there's no time to fit anything else in, including your practicing. Now, just a note about time and planning, especially when it comes to practicing. Over the years, I've heard my students say time and time again that they didn't have time to practice this week. Now, I'm willing to give some grace if that happens once in a great while, but when I start to hear this excuse week after week, it usually becomes clear to me that it's not that the student doesn't have time to practice, it's that they're not making time. We have time for the things we make time for. Will there be seasons in your life when you truly don't have time for practicing? Yes, I've been there. But often when we say we don't have time for something, it's because we haven't prioritized it or don't want to prioritize it. Okay, so let's keep this thought in the background as we discuss our school year practice routines. So first things first, it's important to have some goals in place, especially if you didn't do a lot of singing over the summer. That's fine, by the way, sometimes that break is good. You should think about why you're returning to voice lessons and what you want to work on this year. At the beginning of the school year, I always ask my students what their goals are, and we break it down into different categories. Vocal goals, for example, maybe they want to strengthen their belt, work on breath support through long phrases, increase their range, etc. Musical goals, maybe they want to work on sight reading, better rhythmic accuracy, or singing harmony. Performance goals, in other words, stage presence, or practice goals, being more intentional with their practice sessions, wanting to increase their practice time, etc. Next, I ask them why they want to work on these things. Is it so they can give better auditions, feel more comfortable with the high notes in choir, perform more confidently in the next competition or recital? Having not just a goal, but a reason for the goal is important, because when you fall off track or aren't feeling particularly motivated, you have that why to return to. Once you have your goals figured out, make a practice schedule and start on it right away. Don't say you'll wait until tomorrow, the weekend, next week, next month. That's procrastinating. You just need to do it. Set a goal for yourself, such as, I'm going to practice for 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's a pretty doable practice schedule, even for a busy person. So a specific number of days per week and specific number of minutes per session. Stick to your schedule for a few weeks. This is important. If you just try it for 1 week, you won't establish any consistency. You have to stick it out longer than that. If after about 3 weeks you find something's really not working, then you can revisit the situation and make some tweaks that will work better for you. Next, it's important that you keep consistent with your lessons. The gains you make each week with your teacher are so important in so many ways, but one of the reasons consistent lessons are so important is because they give you feedback on whether your practice routine is working for you. Your lessons also fuel your practicing for the coming week. It's likely your teacher gives you specific tasks to work on. If you miss a week here or there, see if you can check in with your teacher some other way, over email or video chat or something like Marco Polo. That way, you'll still retain some consistency, even if you miss a lesson. Okay, so we talked about goals, we talked about the schedule, and about consistent lessons. So the last step is to plan ahead. What I mean by this is if you know, for example, that next month your school's drama rehearsals are going to ramp up and you'll have less time in your schedule, take that into account when you make your practice plans for those weeks. Or if you know that your fall sport is starting, take that into account. This helps you to build realistic expectations for yourself. Otherwise, we get really busy with whatever activity we've got going on and we forget to make time to practice. And if that goes on for long enough, we start to think like, well, I guess I should just hold off on voice lessons for a while since I don't have time to practice. Now, I understand that sometimes life does get too busy and a hiatus from lessons is necessary, but let's circle back to what I said earlier about making time. It's all about what and how you prioritize. So, one more time. When establishing your practice routine, we want 1, specific goals, a what and a why. 2, a specific schedule that you implement right away and follow with consistency. 3, consistency with your voice lessons. And 4, planning ahead for busy times in your schedule so you can manage your expectations. If all of this sounds a little overwhelming, that's okay. Planning, believe it or not, takes practice in and of itself. If you're struggling to get a practice routine going, talk to your teacher. They will have great advice on what you should be focusing on, how much practice is enough, and how to keep focused on your goals. That's all for today. As always, you can find me on Instagram at Ellen Allen Voice Studio, on Facebook at Ellen Allen Voice Studio, or on the web at ellenallenvoicestudio.com. Until next time, happy singing.